D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk. I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, coming at you from here in South Jersey, as people like to refer to it, with our fun weekend that we had here. Coming to you from New Jersey, I got three special guests with me tonight on our live edition, as we're going to be diving into rule number 6, the officials' nemesis, the kick game. So joining me tonight, we got Mr. Daniel Chamberlain, who you, at this point, I think you're all pretty familiar with. Daniel, thank you once again for joining us. What a crazy, hectic week you've had going on so far.
Of course, of course.
We got, once again, Mr. Coach Chip. Coach Chip joining us from Georgia. So we got Oklahoma, we got Georgia. Coach Chip, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm golden, brother. I hope y'all are fine.
All right. So Coach Chip and Daniel have been on the show previously, and also returning from, gosh, Tom, what was it? Episode 2, I think. You were one of the OGs. I got Mr. Tom Barlow rejoining us once again tonight. Tom is the author of the PowerPoint slides that I have been displaying here to everybody that I have kind of stolen from him, but he didn't trademark it, so it's free game for all. But Tom, thanks again for joining tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, tonight we are going to be diving into Rule 6, which is going to be talking about our kick game, our scrimmage kicks, our free kicks, things like that. And, well, this is where the crazy stuff happens for us officials, because this is where you have, on the simple part, you got 250-pound individuals running full speed at each other for a length of 40, 50 yards at times to try to, kill the ball carrier. And then you got some blindside blocks. You got some wacky stuff with the ball and who touched it first and where did the ball go out of bounds. So we got all the fun things going on here. So it's, I don't know, kick game I was listening to, it's probably about maybe 20% of the actual game when you break it down to number of plays. But this is where the crazy stuff happens for us officials. And for those that watch the game on Sunday in the NFL, probably the most penalized aspect of the game itself when you start seeing that. So, gentlemen, before we start, Daniel, once again, let our listeners out there know where they can find you.
Absolutely. I'm Daniel Chamberlain up here in Northeast Oklahoma. I do a few podcasts. They keep stacking up. I got the football coaching podcast with Joe Daniels, where I got my start. Several hundred episodes over there with him. And then a couple of years ago, I started Coaching 101 podcast with Kenny Simpson. So I got a Virginia guy on, keep you East Coasters happy. I got a guy from here in my neighboring state, Arkansas, to kind of keep it, bring things back home. I guess I just need to add a West Coast guy and make another show, and I'll have the whole country. But you can find me there. And then I have Chamberlain Football Consulting, where I help primarily youth coaches right now. Varsity guys don't generally reach out for help too often. We all think we know what we're doing. So I think we look for help in secret. You know what I mean? We go listen to podcasts. But, if you need help with making graphics or getting a spring install or a fall install or conditioning, whatever you need help with, hit me up at Chamberlain Football Consulting at gmail.com, and I can help you out.
And Coach Chip, how about yourself, sir?
You can find me at Football Talk with Coach Chip on YouTube, Football Talk with Coach Chip, the podcast, which Mike D and I did the whole podcast. You be on mine, I'll be on yours last year. And
yes,
I retired from the classroom several years ago, retired from coaching last year after some health issues, and have dove deep into my online presence just to try to stay involved in the game. And anytime somebody says something like you said, hey, you want to be on Tuesday, or originally it was Friday, and I'm like the fat kid from Remember the Titans, baby. Somebody said football, and I came running.
Yes, sir. And Coach, you also have something that you've recently published. Am I correct?
Yeah, I wrote the book 3 years ago and been selling it as an ebook. My offensive line manual went up on Amazon in March, and it's doing really well. It's only $30, and they can contact me at siegel.chip@gmail.com, which I wake up in the middle of the night saying siegel.chip@gmail.com because I say it so much. And I can hook them up, and they don't even have to deal with Amazon if they don't want to. But Amazon's good because they handle all that marketing and promotion stuff, but they sure do take a big chunk out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But Coach Chip, I've conferred with him a number of different times on his jet manual and stuff like that. He puts out some great stuff out there. So the coaches that are listening, take a good look at this stuff. He's the real deal with what he brings to the table. So
Oh, real quick, the jet manual, the offensive line manual for gap down backer blocking, the big book of bucks, and then the gun power spread system. Those are the 4 publications.
all right. And Mr. Barlow, last but not least.
Yep.
What's
So,
up?
Tom Barlow, obviously don't have my own social media endeavors here, but I'm on
Smart man.
Instagram and all your platforms. Not that I post much, but information about officiating in New Jersey, you could go to njfoashore.com. All the information's there, and the contacts page will get to me because I'm the organization's second vice president and secretary. So basically, all communication is coming to me from the chapter. But yeah, I've been officiating now. I think this upcoming year will be my 15th season. 5 as a referee and crew chief. Started dabbling a little bit in the college level as well. Past few years. But yeah, same as everybody else here. Just love the game. I played in high school, so was happy to stay around it by officiating, and now love officiating just as much as I love playing. So happy to talk football and rules anytime.
All right. And lastly, you got me, Mike D'Ambrosio, Mike D, the referee. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always like to say, if you are enjoying the show, please hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons, hit the comments button, give me those thumbs up, those thumbs down, the middle finger, whatever it is that you want to do. The algorithm just likes to see people that are responding some way, somehow. Coach Chip before mentioned that I'm like the asshole professors with one thing that I pulled on him before we started production tonight, but I am not the asshole person. But I've been called worse. I've been told a lot of things. I am thick-skinned. I got those stripes on come Friday night, so I'm used to it. And also, if you are enjoying the show, I'm going to post up here. I got my Buy Me a Coffee, where on my website it's actually Buy Me a Beer. Mr. Chamberlain's not joining me in the cheers tonight. Mr. Siegel is drinking out of his Yeti, so he's got it kind of hidden, but that's all good. Yeah, Daniel's got his moonshine in the jar right there. He's lying as water.
I don't
But
use a Yeti.
so
I don't use a Yeti.
it's just his microphone.
It's just a plastic cup. My microphone's a Yeti.
But so yeah, you got all those different spots, and hopefully we get some people following us tonight on our YouTube channel. You can find me at Mike D the referee on all the different social media. So now that we got all of that fun stuff done, let's dive in to what we really came here for. Let's talk about the kick game. So we're going to share the screen over here. All right. So there, once again, Tommy stole this for his cadet class from me. Lied. But so here we go. Rule 6, the kicking game and fair catches. So we're going to kind of dive into this. So as we normally do, I kind of throw the first meatball here to Mr. Chamberlain. So we'll keep that tradition going. So
I love it.
Daniel, would you like to take slide number 1?
Slide 1, Rule 6, definitions. Kick, intentional striking of the ball with the knee, lower leg, or foot. A free kick used for kickoff or a kick following a safety. Or you have to remind me what FCFK is.
The free
Nope,
kick
can't
after
do it.
fair catch.
There we go. Man, see. Yeah, scrimmage
You already
kick.
failed the quiz.
Any kick from in or behind the end zone during downs. It could be a place kick, a punt, or a drop kick. Kick ends when a player gains possession or when the ball becomes dead, not in player possession. And then, of course, a kick is a kick is a kick is a kick. That's what we love.
which Daniel
around
and
here.
I have talked about a number of times, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about that again tonight. But the kick stays a kick until it's not a kick.
That's right.
So, simplest fashion.
And who decides it's no longer a kick, Mike?
Usually are
Usually who?
the receiving team.
Okay.
No, we're going to dive into that more for you there, Coach. That's why we have you here tonight for those questions. So we got it from the coach's point of view. So, Mr. Barlow, would you like to take slide number 2 here? I think you're kind of familiar with these.
Sure. I hope I would. This was only 5 or 6 weeks ago now, but I think I can
There you go.
remember on year 4. Free kick lines are always 10 yards apart. That's the serves as the scrimmage line for each team. Unless moved by penalty, case free kick line will be their own 40-yard line for a kickoff, the 20-yard line for a kick after safety, and through the spot of the fair catch or awarded fair catch for a free kick chosen after a fair catch. Punt cannot be used for a free kick other than after a safety. And K can kick from anywhere between the hash marks on their free kick line. The referee does, although not very common, has the authority to move the free kick lines to compensate for field conditions. And you would have to move both so they are 10 yards apart. Once K selects a location between the hash marks, they cannot move it unless otherwise allowed via Rule 4, which was if there's a dead ball foul or other way we're going to replay the down. They can choose a new location if they please.
So, with the panel that we have here tonight, we probably have, oh goodness, probably almost 100 years worth of football background between the 4 of us that are here, give or take. How many times have you seen the referee move the kick in a different spot other than from between the hashes? Coach Chip, you have?
Dude, I coached in South Alabama for the better part of my 40 years. I've
So
been
you
in
saw
some
some weather.
places. Yeah, we're talking about they're moving the ball on every down to get away from fire ant beds back in the old days. Now, that's, it's funny, but it's true. I've
Yeah, I
literally,
believe it.
dude, we ran one time, and this is a play from scrimmage, but it applies to the kicking game too. We ran to the wide side of the field 10 plays in a row, and it was to the right every time because they kept marking on the left hash because there were so many fire ant beds on the right hash. You've never seen kids get up so fast after being tackled.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I have
See,
seen
now-
them move it. And I even told them one time, and I said, nobody's going to make it to the end zone anyway. I said, move it up, move it back. I don't care.
Yeah, so now moving it laterally, I've seen a lot of different times, especially on the kickoff. We've moved extra points over and different things like that. But moving it up and back a couple of yards, I don't know that I've actually ever seen that, especially for the kickoff. But as long as we still have that 10-yard buffer between our 10-yard neutral zone, I should say, we're still good. So the referee does have the right to do that, as Tommy was mentioning. And there's a little graphic here of 2 schools, but you got the ball being kicked traditionally off the 40-yard line here in the high school level, unless there is some type of infraction. And the defense is back behind the 50. So we got our 10-yard buffer there. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I see those teams line up at 15 yards, I'm coming with a surprise onside kick.
Hey, Mike.
All right.
Is there a penalty
Yes,
is there a penalty on R if they retreat too fast?
There is not.
Okay.
Nope. Because, and again, that's where we'll have guys that'll line up at 15 yards instead of 10 yards, or we traditionally like to keep everyone like around 11 yards to give them that little 1-yard buffer. But if the team is playing really deep and all of a sudden they're bailing out, well, again, you're going to see a lot of surprise onside kicks, which we are still allowed to do here in the high school level. So we don't have to declare it like the NFL does. So Rule 6, 1, 3, and 1, 4, we got our free kick formations. After the ball is marked ready for play and until the ball is kicked, no player can be beyond the free kick line other than the kicker or the holder. The infraction here the penalty is going to be encroachment for a 5-yard penalty. So windy day, like we were just talking about, the weather's playing a factor. You got a kid come in and they're holding the ball for the kicker. They can be in the neutral zone while they're holding the ball in that scenario. And again, when the kicker, usually it's their plant foot, kicks the ball, their foot's going to be inside the neutral zone as they're kicking the ball. So kind of like your center having a hand in the neutral zone, we're going to give the same latitude there for your kicker and for your holder. No K players may be more than 5 yards behind K's free kick line, with the exception of the kicker. So me as an umpire, I'm back behind with the kickers. I'm looking at all of the heels of the kick team, making sure that they are not on the line, that they are within that 5 yard barrier. I'm reminding them before each kick. And only one player is allowed to be beyond that 5 yard area, and that is the kicker. And this does come into play with those surprise onside kicks, because you will have the play where the dummy kicker comes running up to the ball and then somebody else from the side come and kicks the ball. Unless they're both inside that 5 yard buffer zone, it's going to be an illegal kick at that point in time. So you're going to have a free kick infraction, which again is going to be a 5 yard penalty. And then when the ball is kicked, they must have at least 4 K players must be on each side of the kicker. And Daniel, and you and I talked about this, about having that one guy coming in motion, possibly behind the kicker. And again, as long as when the ball is kicked, if there's 4 on that side, and as soon as the ball's kicked, they're sprinting and getting to the other side, well, you're good at that point. And again, all these here are going to be, well, the bottom 2 are going to be the umpire here in New Jersey, who we're now placed behind the kicker. So we're back there with K. The neutral zone, we're going to have one of our wings going to be at the line there to make sure that nobody's offsides. And again, we've talked about this. There's latitude with this, with getting a K player in the neutral zone on a kickoff. We're really not going to bust chops with it if it's just a regular normal kickoff, if a kid's maybe a half stride across the line. But when we got an onside kick, we're putting a hammer down on that one. We're making sure that we're dotting I's and crossing T's on that scenario there. But typically, if it's going to be a deep kickoff, we'll go, hey, coach, watch number 2 from the far sidelines. He was close to being offsides. We're not looking to bust chops with that. But these are our penalties that we're going to have at the line of scrimmage. And so, Tommy, and your crew, you get that encroachment penalty. Who's giving that signal?
So we used to do the umpire, but now I think I'm doing them all with 6. I think they eventually changed that.
Yeah, you got to tell my crew chief that. Yeah, you got to tell my crew chief that, because he yells at me. You got to give that signal for that one.
I think that was an old 5-man with the back judge up there doing it, but I think now they're just expecting the referee to do it. With the way the game has evolved at the higher levels, cameras are going right to the referee anyway, so I think everybody sees kind of they look for the guy with the white hat when they see the yellow come out.
Yep. But in that scenario, so my crew still has me doing that one, because I'm kind of right there in the midfield instead of the referee coming up from the goal line to give the signal, which we've talked about in mechanics wise. Yeah, so these are going to be ones that are typically going to be signaling to the press box. So our next slide here, we got basically just your traditional type of kickoff and kick return formations here, but you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen, you got your red dot designating the kicker, and you can see they are at a much greater depth, almost 10 yards. Again, each kicker is going to be a little bit different. But then you got basically what we refer to as 5 kicker 5. So you got 5 on each side of the kicker. Kicker is deeper, and those 5 and 5 are within that 5-yard barrier. So they're all good. You got our 10-yard neutral zone buffer area, and then you got the receiving team on the right. And again, what Coach Chip was asking, you could see here just on the diagram, they've got their outside players on the 45-yard line. So they're at the 15-yard depth. And again, typically they're taught to start going and getting depth as they see the kicker approaching, and making sure that the ball gets kicked deep is what their rule is. If you got a kid that's just going to turn and just sprint back to their spot and not even look at the ball, well, that's where you're going to see your onside kicks popping into play, or the special teams coach should pick that out. Hint, hint, wink, wink, coach.
The reason I asked that earlier, Mike, was because, several years ago, they started doing that 4-man front on the return team.
Mm-hmm.
and then putting two about, 4 men 10 yards from the free kick line, and then two more about 10 yards. So it's almost like having six, but there
Yep.
were two a little deeper. And some coaches were complaining that they got to have five, and the referee was saying, like, no, we checked. You don't have to have five.
No,
I don't think you have
100%.
to have
That
any,
is
do
a
you?
legal formation.
Do what?
Nope. Just as long as they're beyond 10 yards, they're good. So it doesn't matter where they are as long as they're beyond 10 yards. So if you
Yeah,
want to keep,
that's what I
if you want
thought.
to have
Yeah.
11 deep returners, go for it. I don't recommend it, but go for it.
Well, that coach will be NFL, not for long.
Yep. All right. So Coach Chip, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Touching and recovery of free kicks, 615. You want to read this slide out?
All right, by receivers. I'm assuming that means touching by receivers. Any R player may catch or recover a free kick in the field of play. They can advance unless any R player has given a valid or invalid fair catch signal. R can catch or recover a free kick in case end zone. If kick becomes dead inbounds between goal lines with no player in possession or with joint possession, ball is awarded to R.
Pretty simple stuff there. Now, Mr. Barlow, I'm going to ask you this question.
Uh-oh.
K kicks an onside kick and the ball is bouncing around, and an R player gets that ball that's bouncing around and returns it for a touchdown. We got a touchdown?
Touchdown. As long as they didn't
Yeah.
give a valid or invalid fair catch signal.
So a lot of people out there are going to kill that play on the recovery, but it's still a kickoff return. So you can scoop and score on that type of kickoff return, even if it's an onside kick, because there is no muff at that point in time, which we'll talk about with K getting that or recovering that possible onside kick. But if R gets that onside kick, they can go streak right down the sidelines and go in. So that's just one of those little nuances that a lot of people kind of forget. And unfortunately, Daniel and I talked last week about the inadvertent whistles. That's a common place where you sometimes see the inadvertent whistle, which we're never talking about that again.
That is a horrible thing for triple option coaches.
Oh yeah, I was there with you, Coach.
There you go. Oh,
all right.
Hey, I have seen the scoop and score on the kickoff return, the onside kick. You get the candy hop, and the kid catches it on the run and checks out.
Yep.
Which is what y'all were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times, a lot of people think that that's just going to be a dead ball because of the onside kick aspect of it, but it's still a live ball at that point in time. It's just that the kicking team can't scoop and score. All right, so we got rule 616 here. We got touching and recovery of free kicks by the kicking team. Any K player may catch or recover a free kick if, and it doesn't matter what order, the kick has touched the ground. So we refer to this as the ball was grounded. And the kick goes beyond the plane of R's free kick line. So again, that's now going to be that 10-yard buffer. So the ball is grounded and goes beyond 10 yards. Now a K player can catch or recover that free kick. And we're going to talk about this in a moment. Any K player can recover a ball before R's free kick line if R touches it first. Touching is ignored if K gets blocked, if K blocks R into it, or K muffs the ball once it's contacted with R. So if I'm the kicking team and somebody has their back to the ball and I block them into the ball, we're going to ignore that touching at that point in time because that's basically unintentional. And when any K player catches or recovers a free kick, the ball becomes dead. So that's our scoop and score that we were just referring to on that onside kick. It will belong to the kicking team unless we have kick catching interference or there was first touching. Now, Tommy and I have witnessed this one firsthand. There was a team in our, in our area that likes to do, and they do it very well. They have a kicker that will kick a line drive from one hash down the far sideline where they're going to have their widest receiver going down and catch the ball before it goes out of bounds. And that is kick catching interference, even though there might not even be a receiving player in that area. K needs to afford the receiving team the opportunity to catch the ball They cannot catch the ball in the air because the ball was not grounded, even though it went 10 yards. So, Daniel, I see the wheel spinning there. You good with that one?
Yeah. It's it gets back to like it has to be grounded, but we talked last time about like if the kicker kicks it and grounds it immediately off the tee and then it's in the air, like that's always the weird one for us as coaches, because the rule says, hey, the ball's been grounded, it went 10 yards, I snag it out of the air. But of course, that's the one you can't do, right? You got to have the second touch.
Question.
Yeah, and so Tom, I'll get to you in a second, Coach Chip. Tommy, when did the pop-up rule go into effect? Probably about 6 years now, maybe 7.
I think it was before COVID. Yeah. So probably 5-6 years ago now.
So Daniel, that kind of refers to what you were talking about with the ball being grounded immediately. And it was to circumvent what we're just talking about here, where the kicker approaches the ball and they smash the ball directly into the ground. And now it takes that large, obnoxious bounce where, again, I was a special teams coordinator in college and in high school. And we used to teach our kids, we would have basically 3 fullbacks on that far side of the field, and their job was to run full speed and just blow up anything in an opposite color on the opposite side, and then clear the path for our skill kids to come behind them to recover that onside kick. Well, because of the nature of that, because the ball being grounded, and now you have somebody looking straight up in the air to try to catch that ball, well, that's why they kind of took it out. So it is a safety reason. So, Coach Chip, your question now. Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, damn, I can't remember now. Okay, yeah, here it is. So a squib kick from the right hash across the field to the left, and it's hit the ground several times. That means afforded an opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The ball is grounded at that time, especially because it was a number of times. Yep.
That's because
that ball is free game as long as it goes that 10 yards.
I was the kook, the KOOK, the king of onside kicks. I did them all the time. If the kid can't reach the end zone and he can't pooch it up in the air so high it comes down wet, we're going to kick it on the ground every time and give ourselves a chance to recover it. And believe you me, other coaches and referees hated me.
Hey, this goes back to weaponizing the rule book, as Daniel likes to refer to.
I didn't do it weaponize the rule book. I did it to keep from giving the best player on their team the ball in the open field, which is tantamount to giving a kid and turning a kickoff return into a slalom going down a ski slope.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They're just running around kids. Where do you put your best player on kickoff return?
Deep. That's your
so
best
I'm
athlete.
going to kick it to him and just hand it to him. Why don't I just run down the field and hand it to him? So I'm not going to do it. I refuse to give the best player on the other team the football. And that I did that my entire career. I'm not going to give the best player the football.
And I'm going to reiterate that. I used to have a running back who couldn't catch a cold, but when he got the ball in his hands, it had to be a handoff. It couldn't have been a toss sweep or anything like that. You had to hand this young man the ball. Well, we still had him deep on kickoff because we would have the person in front catch the ball and give it back to him. And now you got the best athlete with the ball in their hands, just like you're saying. So that was exactly what we did.
But why would I, as a coach, say, "Here, take the ball"? And so I'm gonna squib it or onside kick it every time.
Yep.
I did it
for
4 years.
All right, Daniel, would you like to take first touching here?
Got you. First touching of free kicks, Rule 617. Definition: first touching on a free kick touched in the field of play by any K player before it crosses R's free kick line and before it is touched by any R player. Such touching is ignored if caused by R pushing or blocking K into the ball. I'm glad we're giving that one back to the K team because, we talked about R touching first earlier. R may take the ball at any spot of first touching or take result of the play. R's right to spot of first touching is canceled if R touches the kick and then commits a foul, or any penalty is accepted for any foul during the down.
That one was
all right, Mr. Barlow. I'm going to defer to you on this one. Can you explain the third bullet point down and why that's important that we have that in there?
Please.
About the
take the
canceled or take the ball at any spot of first touching?
Take the ball at any spot of first touching or take the result of the play.
So most commonly, there's probably only one, right? Maybe it hits a K player in the back on the way down, but K can touch it multiple times before R touches it. So them touching it at the 40 and then again at the 10, obviously R is going to want to take the 40. But ball is not dead once K touches it. That's probably the most important thing. K has to possess it for the ball to be dead. So once K touches the ball, R can pick it up and they can do something with it. So if they do better than that spot of first touching, they can take the result of the play. Or if they don't do better than that spot of first touching, they can take the ball at the spot of the first touching. Again, with the fourth bullet point in there, as long as they don't commit a foul or accept a penalty for any foul during the down, which is where it gets hairy. But
does this? I got a question on timing. Let's just. For what I'm just thinking, end of the game, we're trying to do a whole bunch of reverse passes and get the ball into the end zone, whatever. But K has touched the ball first, has first touching for whatever strange reason that would happen. When you reset and take the point of first touching, does the clock go back, or is all the time that's ran off just gone? How do we work that?
All the time goes still.
Okay.
Let me answer that. It does not go back.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning move in Oregon, brilliant move. Been there, done that.
So now with this is that caveat. This is that odd play where if K just touches the ball and they don't possess the ball and R picks the ball up and they return it 30 plus yards, but then fumble the ball and K recovers that ball, R can take first touching. So we can bring it back to where that first touching occurred, unless we have that caveat of the penalty. Right. So that's where you tell the kids on those punts, pick the ball up and hand it to the official. Don't just touch the ball. Don't just wait. Surround the ball, pick it up, hand it to the official that's nearest, and let's get that whistle blown. Because if they just touch it and turn and run, well, us as officials, we're going to kind of wait a half second to see what R is going to do, give a little delay, but then we're going to kind of blow the whistle. But we're going to give that little pause.
But that's not a free kick, right?
This is going to, well, it could still be on the free kick, yeah.
Because a free
Unless
kick,
it goes
the ball
10,
is live after
if it goes 10
right?
yards, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if it goes to 10 yards, you're good.
Yeah, okay. First touching more comes into play on the scrimmage kicks.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking punt right here about touching the ball. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scrimmage kick or free kick really is the onside kick where K touches it before it goes 10 yards. Then doesn't matter who recovers it after that, R still has the option for that.
So before it goes 10, it's just like a punt.
Yeah.
Before it goes
first 10. Touching spot, and then whatever happens after that, R can still take that first touching
spot.
Makes
sense. That makes sense. Okay.
All right, Tom, you want to take some pop-up kicks?
Sure. So actually in Rule 6, it just says a pop-up kick is illegal.
Yep.
And gives you the penalty for it. So it's important. This is why the definitions are important for officials and coaches out there, right? The pop-up kick is described as a kick driven immediately into the ground. It strikes the ground once and rises into the air as if a manner that it's kicked directly off the tee. So this was put in, again, in my professional opinion, not those of the NFHS rules writers, but to eliminate the confusion of what Daniel was talking about further. What did the ball touch the ground? Did it not touch the ground? Our rule of thumb is really that it hits the ground once within 1 yard of the tee and then goes kind of above the heads of those guys on the front line. So 6 feet or so in the air. And penalty for that is just a free kick infraction. It's 5 yards and it's a dead ball foul. So as soon as we see that ball strike the ground once, go into the air 6 feet, we're killing it right away and enforcing a dead ball foul against K.
Oh, so you do blow it. Okay, that shoots down I was already dreaming up a scenario here. If I score a touchdown and kick an extra point to go up by 1 with 1 second to go on the clock, I'm fixing to do that kick. And when somebody touches it, the clock starts and the game's over.
Nope,
unfortunately, now we're probably going to reset that to 1 second in that case.
I was already thinking that. Not that I would
And
ever
Coach Chip,
weaponize the rule book, Mike. I would never weaponize the rule book. Never.
No, only some people with the DC initials would do something like that. But just so you coaches know, one of our mechanics that we get into the habit is that we start talking and communicating what time the score happened, because that's going to remind us. Not only are we writing it down in our notebook that, okay, they scored with 1 second left on the clock in your scenario, but we're also with our O to O's trying to remind each other, hey, 1 second, or 5:15, just throwing that score out there, just to verbalize it, to set that little reminder so that we know, because in all the scenarios when we're talking about the clock isn't going to start winding, and it's only on the referee's wind until R gains possession of it. Not even the touching, but gains possession, which a kick is a kick is a kick. So it's when it's not a kick, we're going to rewind that clock.
All right, hang on. Okay, so if 1 second to go, and I tell my kicker to find the big fat kid on the front line and kick it right at him, and it bounces off of him, the clock doesn't start?
No, it starts on any
Contact or
touching
touch?
other than first touching by K. So
Okay.
any touching
would-
beyond
yeah.
10 yards or by either team, or touching by R anywhere.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like the show, don't buy Mike a beer, buy Mike a coffee. Yeah, because I said that wrong, and you're absolutely correct, Coach, and grabbing that one. So good job on you, Coach.
Oh, I
Chip.
wasn't trying to
And-
get you. I'm trying to help, because I know there's coaches out there listening. I'm out of it right now. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to help them.
No, I'm glad you got me, because it reiterates it to me. So, but I do take exception to the big fat kid, because I was one of them. So,
Me too.
I'll tell you what, if you really are thanking me, go to mybuymeabeer.com and buy me
Oh,
one.
look at that.
boom, nice. All right. So, Daniel, you and I have talked about this one here. Free kick shall not be kicked out of bounds between the goal line, untouched by R. And if so, we got a free kick infraction. And S19 for those people is signal number 19. So in our rules manual, we have our signals page. So signal 19, and as Tommy's doing it, it's the old wind there.
Oh, I thought he was being the Temptations there for a minute.
He's got some soul in him. He's got some rhythm. But so when we get our free kick infraction, we are giving the R team 4 options. And well, we're kind of trying to limit their options, but 5 yards from the previous spot and re-kick, which we really frown upon because we don't want that kickoff, which again, you're seeing less and less of the kickoffs because of the injuries. So but the NFHS has kind of given more benefit to having taken it from 5 yards from the succeeding spot. So if the ball goes out of bounds at the 40-yard line, they're going to get the ball from the succeeding spot plus 5 yards. So they'll get the ball at the 45-yard line. So we're giving them the advantage of it. They can put the ball in play 25 yards beyond the previous spot. So if we're kicking from the 40-yard line, 25 yards would be 50, 40, 35, or declining the penalty and putting the ball in play at the inbound spot, which is exceptionally rare. And I know Tommy on one of this next slides goes over when that scenario will happen, but it's really, really uncommon. Usually you're going to get that 5 yards with the succeeding spot if the ball is kicked out of bounds before the 35-yard line, or you're going to take the ball at the 35-yard line, or actually I should say the 31-yard line, because you could still get to the 36-yard line in that scenario. If it's the 30-yard line, it's kind of the same. 30 plus 5 gets you to 35. But we're trying to take out the re-kick scenario. There are some coaches, though, that are going to re-kick, and keep going with it, just because they want an opportunity to recover the ball, because there are the king of the onside kick people out there.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's touched by R and then goes out of bounds, R gets that ball of the spot where it goes out of bounds. There is no penalty, no foul for that one at all. So, Tommy, I'll let you take this one because you wrote the book on this. So, your realistic options.
Yeah, I'll give the Bill Sertable the book on this. I just put it into words on a PowerPoint slide. But basically, anywhere from the R30 all the way back to the receiving team goal line, your 2 options are going to be take the ball at the 25 yards in advance of where the ball was kicked from, which is normally the 35 in a standard kickoff, or allow K to re-kick from the previous spot minus 5 yards. If it goes out anywhere beyond the R30-yard line all the way down to K's goal line, 1st and 10 from the out-of-bounds spot plus the 5 yards, and the other option, again, re-kick from the previous spot minus 5 yards.
Now, the R35,
all right, I got quiz
that's
time
NCAA,
here.
right?
For the
R35 and NCAA?
Because in high school, it's R40, right?
Yeah, but the 25 yards from where we kick it is the.
Oh, you're talking about the R. Yeah, R. My bad. Not K. R. Okay. Yeah, the 25-yard thing.
All right. So Mr. Chamberlain, I got a quiz question for you.
Let's go.
We have a safety. We got a safety. Kicking team decides to punt the ball. They got a booming punter. He punts the ball or she punts the ball. Beyond midfield, the ball goes now out of bounds at the receiving team's 35-yard line, but it goes out of bounds. What are their options of getting the ball?
So they have the same options, but it's going to fit because they kicked from so far back. It moves that R30 rule that we're discussing up quite a bit, right? Because they're kicking from the 25, if I'm not mistaken. They kick from their own K25. 20. Okay, so I was close.
Yep.
So now when we look at that 25-yard rule, now that's K45, and so obviously you bump that R30 rule up a little bit. So if they boomed it that far back there, we're going to be in that first section, that 1st and 10, 25 yards advance of where it was kicked from, so they can get it at the R40, K45, or they're going to re-kick from the previous spot, which I don't know why you would. You're past the 50. Let's go.
Agreed.
I like
Re-kick would be from the 15-yard line, though. But yes, you are correct. So, and that's where us knowing that it's 25 yards in advance from where the ball was kicked comes into play, of truly knowing that, because all right, traditionally the ball's kicked off from the 40-yard line and at the high school level. All right, you got an encroachment foul. We move it back to the 35-yard line. Now the ball goes out of bounds. They want it 25 yards from there. Oh, that's a simple one. But let's say we had a 15-yard penalty that they wanted enforced on the kickoff. So now they're moving the kickoff back from the 40-yard line back to the 25-yard line. Well, now they kick the ball out of bounds. We got to know, okay, coach, you get the ball at the 50-yard line or 5 yards from where it went out of bounds are the most realistic options in that scenario. Yeah. Coach Chip, you had your hand up. Was that a question or were you giving us
I was just saying 45. 45.
Yeah. I feel like the sneaky part of that quiz was the fact that it's a punt, but it's still free kick. A kick is a kick is a kick. So the rule still stands.
Does anybody know why? And I'm not saying this because I know why they give you the option for a free kick after a safety that you can punt it, but they don't give you that option on a kickoff. That must go back to the 1800s is all I can figure.
I'm only thinking of the NFL as my reference point, but think about where the punters are. They're 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and they're booming 60-yard punts. That 60-yard punt actually happens from the line of scrimmage. So they're technically kicking the ball 75 yards in the air on a 60-yard punt.
No, I'm not saying why you do it. I'm saying why they give them the option, Mike.
Because that's what the book says, Chip.
Because the book says so.
I honestly couldn't tell you why.
You can't do it on a regular kickoff, but you can do it on a free kick after a safety. But I just wondered why. And
so now here's our scenario of when R would possibly decline that free kick out of bounds penalty. And Tommy does a great job here of putting it into a true scenario. You got a kickoff happening from K's 40-yard line. They attempt an onside kick. The ball bounces and goes out of bounds, bouncing at the K45 where it hits K22. So it hits, you got first touching. The ball continues to roll and then goes out of bounds, untouched at the R48. Their options, well, you could take the ball at the 35. Wouldn't really want that. You could take the ball at the 47, 1st and 10, 5 yards. You could take the ball from 25 yards from the previous spot, 35-yard line, or you can decline the penalty and take 1st and 10 from K's 45-yard line, which is where that first touching happened. So you're gaining a good amount of yards. The 5 yards from the succeeding spot is going to be to the 47-yard line. So you're gaining 2 more yards in that scenario. So again, very rare, but we have a first touching, ball out of bounds on an onside kick. So there's a lot of different things to take into play. And again, this is why us people in the stripes, we get together and we kind of make sure that we have all of our options to give to the coach so that they know what their options are, because it's very easy for the coach just to say, oh, we'll take it where it went out of bounds. Well, coach,
Right.
we'll give you another 2 yards if you take this one.
That's cool.
All right. Moving along, touchback on free kicks. This one's kind of an easy one. It is a touchback if the free kick breaks the plane of R's goal line. Unless R chooses the spot of first touching by K, a kick is 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 a kick. Shut up. Kick is a kick. So unless R chooses spot of first touching, once the ball breaks the plane, we're going to have ourselves a touchback. A fair catch free kick, the ball is live until successful or failed once beyond the goal line. Tommy, want to explain that one?
Yeah, so it's basically just telling you, right? Any normal free kick, once the ball crosses the plane of R's goal line, it's dead. But
Yep.
For a fair catch free kick, when you could score points, the ball technically doesn't become dead until either it goes through the uprights or it's failed beyond the goal line. So we just leave that. And same thing applies to a field goal, which is technically a scrimmage kick. Ball's live until it's successful, since it's a scoring attempt. But otherwise, it still would be a touchback once it crosses the plane of the goal line.
So is it safe to say that in basically every scenario, once it crosses the goal line, crosses that plane of the goal line, we're going to have a touchback?
Yep, unless it goes through the uprights.
Yep. And we got
On
points.
a scrimmage kick, I should say.
Well, technically, a free kick after a safety.
We do see.
A free kick after a safety is good for 3 points if it goes through the uprights. So there is a free kick you can score on. Correct?
No.
Yes, a free kick after not a safety. I mean, after a fair catch.
After a fair catch, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the only
okay.
one.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Gonna
Which,
say,
by the
Coach,
way,
if you got
if a
somebody
free
that can
kick
kick the
after a
ball 90
safety goes
yards.
to the uprights, it ought to be 3 point. It ought to be 6 points.
Yeah,
I can
right.
see the coach's
90
walking
yards,
there.
you ought to be given the keys to the kingdom.
You are correct there. All right, so replaying the free kick downs. We're going to kind of move through this one. So we're going to replay the free kick down. The free kick down is not repeated unless the foul occurs prior to the change of possession and acceptance requires a replay, which again goes back to the choices that we talked about. And again, NFHS was trying to limit the re-kicks. We want people taking it at that spot. Unless we have a double foul, fouls by both teams where we're going to replay the down, or unless there's an inadvertent whistle. So we're going to just mumble that one and move along because there's never an inadvertent whistle. It doesn't happen. We're good like that. All right, moving right along. Beautiful.
Oh, God, I love it.
All right, so we got another graphic here. Kind of reiterates what we had in our other one with our formations, but you can see you got the kicker more than 5 yards back behind the ball. You got a minimum of 4 players on each side. You got your free ball zone, which is basically from the 50 all the way to the goal line where it may be recovered, but not advanced by the kicking team once it's grounded and lands into that free ball zone. And if it goes beyond the end zone, we got ourselves a dead ball and a touchback. So basically just reiterating all the different things that we talked about. All right. Crazy stuff happens here. We're continuing with Rule 6. This is where I merged them all together. So Coach Chip, this is where you are going to fail the quiz because you didn't get this part of the study guide before we talked. So Daniel already talked about this one, our definitions here about what a kick is, the intentional striking of the ball with knee, lower leg, or foot. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody knee the ball, but it's in the rule book because it's part of the leg. For kicking purposes, I should say. I've seen knees hit the ball, but for kicking purposes. Your free kicks are your kickoffs following a kickoff or a fair catch free kick. And our scrimmage kicks are basically going to be our punts and field goals are going to be referred to more commonly. We refer to them as scrimmage kick, but people always kind of refer to them as field goals or punts. So scrimmage kicks and the NFHS rules where punts and field goal doesn't matter there's no difference. Tommy, what is the one difference?
Field goal can score points.
What's a field goal? Yeah, field goal is a punt that can score. That's it. Can't punt the ball through the uprights, Coach Chip. I'm not letting you have that one.
Can drop kick it though.
All right, Coach Chip. Tommy, you
Yes.
can't give him the answers to the test already.
I know what a drop kick is.
Coach Chip, would you
I'm
like
the
to take
oldest
this
one
slide?
here.
I've seen Doug Flutie do it, so I can't say you're the only one who's seen it. So
And I can tell you why they don't do it anymore.
what do you got?
I can tell you why they don't do it anymore.
Why don't they do it anymore?
They've changed the football. It's more aerodynamic. If you go back and look at the old days when the ball was more like a rugby ball, you'd get that true hop when you did the drop kick. My daddy,
But wait
who
a minute,
graduated
Coach.
high school in 1959, had one of the old footballs. And it looked nothing like the ones we played with in the 70s and 80s and still play with today. But they're more
wait,
pointed
Coach.
now, so you don't get that true hop when you drop it. But
In
the
the beginning of the
original
game, you
American
guys-
football looked like a rugby ball.
But before the game, you guys like to bring to the umpire your game balls and your kicking balls. So you're telling me you don't use a rugby ball for your punts?
I don't think they're legal, are they?
Not allowed to swap them out. And no, they're not legal.
But because
Trying to get you on that
they're
one.
not legal because I'd have figured that out.
All right. So our scrimmage kicks 6-2. Any kick from in or behind the neutral zone during a down. And K may punt, drop kick, or place kick prior to the change of possession from in or behind their neutral zone. K doesn't have to be in a scrimmage kick formation to execute the scrimmage kick. And Daniel, you and I talked about that that quarterback kick, that quick kick scenario. So
Right.
this is where you are still allowed to kick it, but we're not going to afford the center the protection as opposed to being in a scrimmage kick formation. And K or A, depending upon what kind of formation they may be in, they could be in an offense, may not punt, drop kick, or place kick from beyond the neutral zone or after the change of possession. And R, receiving team, or B, the defense, may not punt, drop kick, or place kick the ball, which I don't know why they would even think about doing something like that, of just seeing the ball on the ground and just giving it an old soccer smash. But in those scenarios, we're going to have an illegal kick, signal S31, and a 10-yard infraction there.
Are you going to talk about how a
All right.
punt? Y'all said a
Chip, I'm
punt.
going to assign this one to you.
Okay. I was going to ask you a question.
What do you got?
A punt,
Yeah. Goal is a
And a-
punt that can score.
a punt, and a field goal are the same in federation rules.
They are just a scrimmage kick. Yeah.
Okay. Because when I was coaching in North Alabama back in the early 90s, there was a little school across the river from us whose punter was horrible, but they had a kicker move in to this little 2A school. They would go for field goals from their own 10. He never made it, but he could kick further than any punter could punt it, and they would just cover them.
Yep.
And he was kicking 40 and 50-yard field goals all for 2 years that he went to that school. It was every Saturday morning in the paper, we would open it up to see like how far did he kick it this week? Because it didn't matter where they were they didn't have a punting team, Mike. They just let this kicker kick it, and people were all confused because they changed that rule in college and the NFL back in the 70s, early 80s, and it was wherever it rolled dead. Just like a punt.
Absolutely.
A punt and a field goal in federation are the same thing, except you can score on a field goal.
Yes, sir.
I saw it happen.
So, Coach Chip, would you like to take this one?
All right. Touching and recovery of scrimmage kicks. By receivers, any R player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick in the field of play. Can advance unless it is a try, which a try means a try for what? Extra
Try
point?
for point. Extra point.
Can advance unless it is a try or a valid or invalid fair catch signal was given. R may catch or recover a scrimmage kick in K's end zone. If kick becomes dead, inbounds between goal lines with no player possession or with joint possession, ball is awarded to R at that spot. That goes back to anytime there's simultaneous possession, it always goes to the offense. And R is the offense, right, Tom?
Yep.
When the
Correct.
kick goes beyond the neutral zone, yes.
Yeah.
When it's still behind, K is still the offense.
Well, let me ask you a question. Has there ever been a scenario where a scrimmage kick ends up in K's end zone?
Probably not, but if there's a rule about it, I'm sure it's happened somewhere.
That'd be a hell of a wind.
Yep.
I mean, is that not just a
Coach,
punt that goes backwards? Or, I mean, even if you get to like a blocked punt or something, right? Like those are all, you kind of start working in that realm.
Yeah.
and I had a JV game this past year where they punted from their own end zone and the punter whiffed on the ball and the ball was just lying in the end zone and the receiving team just jumped on the ball and everybody kind of looked at me. I'm like, guys, that's a touchdown. Like, we got nothing there. They're like, that's not a foul. That's not a I'm like, no, guys, your kicker whiffed.
But if he'd have touched
anybody
it
for
and
that.
it didn't get out of the end zone, they could still recover it for a touchdown, right?
You betcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if it goes beyond the neutral zone, so they kicked from the 5-yard line, kicker's at the back of the end zone. If they kicked it and it landed at the 6, but took one of those funky bounces and started bouncing the other way and came back into the end zone, we still got a touchdown. We got to,
Yeah.
somebody's going to get credit for a kick return touchdown there. Crazy. Or you're going to get a punt returner.
And it's going to be a lineman, probably. Good deal.
Yeah, it's one of the few times we get to score.
Yep.
All right. Daniel, would you like to jump on this one here?
Yeah, buddy. Touching and recovery of scrimmage kicks, Rule 6-2-3 and Rule 4. 6-2-4. There you go. By kickers, any K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick while it is in or behind the neutral zone and advance it. We just talked about that a couple weeks ago. Talked about if your punter is really good and it bounces it back behind your line of scrimmage, you can indeed take that ball and go with it, right? Any K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick while beyond the neutral zone if it has been touched by R clearly beyond the neutral zone, but touching is ignored if K blocks R into the ball or K muffs or bats the ball into R. So same as the free kicks earlier. There are further restrictions in kick catching interference in Rule 6-5-6, which it looks like we will get to. That's further on. When any K player catches or recovers a scrimmage kick beyond the neutral zone, the ball is dead. So there's no advancement if you've recovering it way down there.
So if the punt doesn't go past the line of scrimmage, the kicking team can advance it.
Absolutely.
I know. We kicked one time. It hit the right tight end in the butt, came to rest between his feet. He looked down and saw it and took off running and got the first down. And we were raising immortal hell. But it was the right call. I'll still do. I can tell you exactly where it happened.
I got running right now. I got my head around. I got shot in the buttock.
Yeah.
Do what?
The game, so let's keep here. So I'm gonna. You want next?
Hang on, I'll pull it up, boys. We'll just keep rolling. Let me get it out of my email real quick.
I was wondering what was happening. He sounded like a robot.
Yeah, every
Yeah, I
once
wasn't
in a
sure if it
while,
was me because none of you guys were moving for a sec, or if it was him.
every once in a while, he it just dips out. So I did this last time, and I just picked it up and ran with it, and he was okay with that. So let me open mine, and then I will share. He's probably texting me right now, like, "I'm so sorry." Share
By the way, that kick
screen.
happened while you're doing that. It happened at Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, and all of y'all know what Crampton Bowl is because that was the home of the Blue-Gray game forever. It's where that kick happened. I still remember it.
All right, I think I'm back.
He's back.
All right, I'll quit sharing then. I'll let you share your own.
I'm like Eminem.
Guess who's back? Must be raining in Jersey.
Yeah. No, not yet. But we now have Canadian wildfires that are messing with we have air quality issues going on because of the Canadian wildfires right now. So, it's not one thing or it's the other.
Canadian
Yeah,
Wildflowers.
we
sounds
got
like a
that blurb this morning.
That sounds like the name of a rock band.
Oh, they've been getting crushed the last 2 summers. All right, so first touching of scrimmage kicks. Did you guys go over this one yet?
No, I couldn't get there fast enough.
Amateur hour.
I know, dude.
All right, our definition. We talked about this one in Rule 2-12. First touching, scrimmage kick touched in play, touched in the field of play beyond the expanded neutral zone by any K player before it is touched by R. We got our first touching. Such touching shall be ignored, which again we've talked about. If caused by R pushing or blocking K into the ball, R may take the ball at any spot of first touching, the result of the play. And if first touching is canceled when we have our penalty. Why do I feel like I've talked about that one? Because we talked about it on our kickoffs. Here we go. Sorry, technology got me again. So that one's kind of just a repeat of what we talked about earlier. So now we want our touching and out of bounds of scrimmage kicks. Let's make sure we're in the right slide here so I'm not messing everything up again. All right. Daniel, you got this one?
Yep. Touching and out of bounds, scrimmage kick 6-2-6 and 7. Touching of a scrimmage kick in or behind the expanded neutral zone is ignored. Kick doesn't go beyond the end zone, the extended neutral zone. Look at that. See, got me almost. Treated as any other loose ball, and then a kick goes beyond the extended neutral zone. It's a kick. Any touching in or behind the extended neutral zone is still ignored. Ball is awarded to R if scrimmage kick goes out of bounds, dead with no possession, or joint possession. Ball is placed at the inbound spot when out of bounds, unless R chooses a spot of first touching.
Okay, and that one's kind of self-explanatory. Your punt goes out of bounds, or it just dies, and you got everybody surrounding ball, but nobody wants to pick it up, and they just want to let the clock keep going and going and going. Well, eventually we're gonna kill the play and stop the clock there and have a change of possession, or if it's in joint possession, as Coach Chip brought up earlier.
How long will y'all let it go? When it's obvious the ball's quit moving?
Yeah, it's kind of vague, Coach. Not going to lie. It's going to depend on the crew, but I mean, a long second, if we know that it's really, it depends upon where R is. If there's somebody in the area, we're going to kind of wait a little bit more to see if they want to pick the ball up and be that little daredevil that they sometimes like to be. But if there's nobody around and the ball comes to a complete rest, we're probably going to kill it at that point in time.
I want to hear from Tom. He looked like he was either grimacing or laughing about that question.
No, it's always one of those good, like Mike says, it's vague. And my new guys, when I talk about stuff like this, they're always like, well, what's the answer? And there's not a specific one, but the rule says once it's motionless and no player's attempting to recover, it's dead. If it's sitting there and nobody's around it, we're just going to kill it. If, like Mike said, if somebody's maybe sitting there, you think they might try to pick it up, we're going to sort of let the play kill itself in that instance.
Yeah, I had a ref one time tell me, he said, when we hear you yelling on the sideline, don't touch it, we're going to kill it. So
Coach Chip, I try not to listen to you guys on the sideline, so
Yeah, right.
we try to get rid of those.
You'll hear every friggin' word.
Well, that doesn't mean we're listening. I mean, I'm married. I know that one. All right. All right. So here we got ourselves another nice diagram here with our neutral zone, our expanded neutral zone. And you can see here our offensive line numbering exception now when we have our scrimmage kicks will come into play, which Daniel and I talked about in a previous episode. So this is where you're going to have a punt where a special teams coordinator is probably going to have a mix of linebackers, fullbacks, those types of players being their punt blockers, as opposed to your field goal team, which is pretty much going to be your offensive linemen. Reason you want those linebackers and fullback types is because they tend to be a little bit more faster. I'm not going to say athletic because us offensive linemen are athletes just in bigger bodies, damn it.
That's right.
They tend to be a little bit, they can cover a little bit more ground at a rapid pace. We'll go with that. So your numbering exception gets taken out. A ball kicked into K's end zone, recovered by K, is now going to be a safety. If it's recovered by R, it's going to be a touchdown. If it goes out of bounds through their own end zone, it's also going to be a safety, which we're going to talk about in one of our later rules, talking about, well, the different types of scores. If the scrimmage kick goes out of bounds, it's going to be R's ball regardless of where it goes, and it's going to be at the inbound spot. So if the ball goes out of bounds, we're going to give it to R. So scrimmage kick out of bounds, regardless of down, belongs to R at the inbound spot. So again, that one's kind of self-explanatory there. So here's our numbering exception again now, as we just talked about. So our offensive line numbering exception. Typically on a field goal, you're going to see predominantly offensive line out there. And a lot of times you're going to see ineligible tight ends that are out there. And our deep wings that are going to be underneath the goalpost should be identifying that those players are ineligible by number, even though they might be in an eligible position as a tight end. They are ineligible by number. But your numbering exception comes into play because a lot of times your long snappers, or in this scenario, short snappers, are going to be a legal number. So they are allowed to be out there. And if you go back and take a look at one of my videos about the not so ordinary plays, we have a team that lined up in your swinging gate type of formation where they had an ineligible number on a first down. So that number was not legal in that scenario because you have to have 5 ineligible numbers in that scenario unless it is truly a kick type of play.
Now, Mike, I think we talked about this, but the formation can dictate that exemption, right? If you come out in a punt formation, even if it's first down, do you get the exemption, or does it have to be third or fourth down, or is the formation that gives you the exception, or is it the down and distance?
Can you kick a field goal on first down, Daniel?
I mean, if I just need to run out 7 seconds or something, and I just want to boot a punt down there, maybe.
Back in the day, a lot of people quick kicked on first down.
Tommy, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry, bud.
No, yeah, it's the formation, but only on fourth down can you replace all of your linemen. On first, second, or third, you can only replace the snapper with non-50 to 79.
All right, I got 2 questions. Well, one comment, but I want you, referees,
to tell comment, the question, the exclamation.
Tell all the coaches about this. In NCAA and NFL, you can run the fake field goal or extra point where the wingback comes running behind the holder and he flips it to him over his shoulder, or he flips it to the kicker over his shoulder. That's not legal in high school if the holder has a knee on the ground. Correct.
He does have to stand up.
They all know that because they see it happen on Saturday and Sunday, and they wonder why they can't do it on Friday. The other question is this, talking about formations and depth. Free kick punt formation. If the quarterback lines up really deep, is the center afforded protection? on first, second, and third down.
By the book, 10 plus yards. Yes. As long as you're in a scrimmage kick formation, which for a punt, as we described, the rule book says 10 plus yards behind the line of scrimmage. If you're in 8 or 9, I think we're probably giving you the benefit of the doubt, particularly at lower levels, where we're not expecting a freshman or an 8th grader to be able to snap the ball 12, 15 yards.
So okay, because again, 20 years ago, I'm scouting Hoover because we're playing them the next week. And guess who they're playing in the first game of the season? Nice. Who was the quarterback at Nice? Tim Tebow. So
He's
we're there
pretty good.
scouting him. They can't protect him for nothing. So they come out in the second quarter and they put his butt 8 yards deep and then started penalizing Hoover for their nose guard hitting the center because they were in a punt formation. That was 20 years ago.
So I can tell you when I played, I think the rule was written a little differently because my coach used to try to use the numbering exception. And I think the rule was 7 or more yards back. You have a player 7 or more yards back. It's a scrimmage kick formation.
Yep.
And probably similar to the reasoning you just gave with that example, they changed it to 7 or more yards back with somebody acting as a holder and somebody acting as a kicker, or 10 or more yards back only.
But I'm telling you, snapping the
Now,
ball.
Coach Chip,
Go ahead.
I could tell you that back in my day, which we're now talking 30 plus years ago, when I was a long snapper, none of these rules existed because my indoctrination into long snapping as a sophomore in a varsity game was I had a split that was about 4 feet wider than my shoulders. I was there to snap the ball. That's all the coach told me to do. And I had a kid in a scrimmage lineup said, "I'm going to knock you on your ass." And I had a perfect snap to the punter 15 yards back. And guess what this kid did? Well, he knocked me on my ass right away. And he started over me and he trash talked me. And I said, "Did the punt get off?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I'm good."
I'm good.
But I didn't get any protection.
Dude, I got a similar story. First game I ever played varsity football, I was a sophomore. The snapper got hurt. I snapped homecoming 1978. 78? Yeah, 78. And we were playing the school where my stepmother was a teacher. She bragged to everybody that her son was going to be playing in the game. So they all knew there was a rook snapping on extra points and field goals. First time we scored, they hit me so hard, I almost blocked the extra point.
Nice.
I literally
Usually a little
almost
more-
blocked the extra point. They drove me 5 yards back into the backfield. Yeah. Don't
So now,
brag.
Coach Chip, back in your day, did they have fair catches?
Yes.
All right. So you're going to take this slide here, 6-5.
Fair catch. R forfeits advancing the ball to get protection. Free kick. Enter beyond neutral zone to R's goal line. Scrimmage kick. Beyond the neutral zone to R's goal line. Any R player may signal for a fair catch while any legal kick is in flight. Prohibited from blocking until the kick has ended after giving signal. Penalty. Blocking after valid or invalid signal is 15 yards. It is a fair catch and ball is dead if R gives valid signal and catches the ball. From enter beyond the neutral zone to R's goal line for a free kick, or from beyond the neutral zone to R's goal line for a scrimmage kick. I just saw this happen the other day. I was watching old film, and it was Augustana playing in the Stag Bowl, and they got penalized because the guy signaled fair catch, and he ran up like he was going to catch it and ran into the kid, and the referee deemed he did it on purpose, and he called it whatever, blocking after a free kick, after a fair catch. Yep.
No, I think one of the more recent ones that I've seen, and I'm saying this more recent, I think Julian Edelman did it with the Patriots a couple of years back, where he gave a fair catch signal and absolutely blew the guy up. And well, we could say Coach Belichick was not very happy with that because that one was definitely a 15-yard penalty. But if they don't give that fair catch signal, they can go and block. So that is one thing where you'll see them give the dummy return and go to one side of, although the ball might be on the left side, they're going to the right side, and they may take a free lick at somebody. NFHS Federation rules, we may still have a little yellow hanky down there for unnecessary roughness or something like that when you're taking a free kill shot on somebody. But yeah, in the NFL, Julian Edelman lit this guy up, and well, the flags went flying, to say the least.
You got to love a wide receiver with a
So-
full beard.
Oof. So Tommy, invalid fair catch signal. It's something that's been going back and forth with our association, and I know in our state. What would be an invalid fair catch signal?
An invalid would be one that does not meet the requirements of a valid signal, which is one arm over your head wave, or it is given after a ball is hit the ground. So you can no longer give a signal after the ball's hit the ground. In terms of flagging it, only the second one probably in most cases. Unless we've warned a kid a few times about his signal and he's still doing it. But very rarely penalized for invalid fair catch signal in terms of not meeting requirements is clear and visible, given above the head, all that.
So now we've had a lot of discussion with this one, especially on afternoon games instead of a Friday night game. A return going back and kind of shielding some different things like that, all the stand over their head. And although they're not giving a fair catch, and the defensive fair signal, kicking I should say, it's a fair catch signal, and stop. What do we get? I think they
Like we lost you again there, Mike.
What does it sound like when a robot's battery runs down?
And give him Das Boot.
And there he goes.
So I think I kind of know where he was going. Basically, any sort of signal, like he was trying, I think he was trying to say like shielding the sun for the coaches out there, the poison signal, even though the world maybe doesn't know those as fair catch signals, it could be seen as deceiving the other team into thinking that he's afforded protection when in reality he's not. So we're just going to treat those kind of as fair catch signals. We're not going to penalize them for being invalid. Really, the penalty comes down to stopping the return and blowing the ball dead once it's possessed after the hand. I think actually the NCAA rule book, even though we're talking NFHS, has a whole slew of examples of things that won't be penalized but will be cause the play to become dead,
right?
In terms of signals.
Guess who's back?
We saw you.
Woohoo! All right, and here we go. Continuing with our fair catch. Good save, gentlemen. Thank you very much for keeping it rolling there. Fair catch 6-5. Only the receiver who gives a valid fair catch signal is afforded the protection. So that one's an important one there too, because if you got some numbskull that's running down the field and they're waving for a fair catch, but they're not catching the ball, and the person who does catch the ball, well, if they get popped, we're going to kill the play like Tommy was just talking about, but it's not going to be a penalty in that scenario. We're not going to, he didn't know it was a fair catch. So only the person who gives that fair catch signal gets afforded that protection in that scenario. So
if
continuing with that.
If multiple people are giving it, do they all get the protection?
Good question.
Technically, yeah, but
So
it's
if a team's just super aggressive, I can be like, all 11 of you get your hand in the air. That way they can't hit any of us without it being a penalty.
So
But you better make sure that the receiver stops at that point and doesn't start getting
Right.
a delay game penalty too.
Right.
if they're all
Tom, what
in
were you gonna
a
add?
reasonable position to catch the ball, because technically you're only given the protection if you give the signal and you catch the ball. Now you could have KCI in those instances, right? If your nose guard is standing on the line of scrimmage giving a fair catch signal, doesn't mean the other team can't hit him.
Okay.
But they can't hit him if he catches the ball, because then it's dead as soon as he catches it.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense. But that was a good question, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that one, Tommy. So a receiver shall not give an invalid fair catch signal when it does not meet the requirements or after the kick touches the ground or an R player. Again, we got an invalid fair catch, which is going to be a 5-yard infraction. The runner shall not give an illegal fair catch signal. Again, given by the runner after the kick has been caught or recovered. So I've seen it where a returner to the right catches the ball, but the returner to the left then gives a fair catch signal after the ball has been caught. Typically, that's you're going to see that at your lower levels, not often at the varsity level, but sometimes at the lower levels. But again, that's going to be an invalid fair catch signal on that one. So another 5-yard infraction. And no receiver may advance the ball after a valid or invalid fair catch signal. And that's where I just mentioned before, our delay game penalty. So again, we see it as officials. We should be blowing the whistle dead and blowing the play dead right when the ball is caught to A, give the protection, but B, to try to prevent that delay game penalty. But if that receiver takes off and they're going 75 yards down the sideline trying to score a touchdown, well, then we're going to have a delay game penalty in that scenario. All right. Moving right along. KCI, kick catching interference. Tomas, I'm going to defer to this one to you.
All right. So kick catching interference. These situations apply to a free kick in flight in or beyond the neutral zone, or a scrimmage kick in flight beyond the neutral zone. So basically that 10-yard belt on a free kick. You can have KCI in that. A scrimmage kick, it's only beyond the neutral zone. So K shall not touch the ball or R unless they are blocked into the ball or they are warding off a blocker or obstruct R's path to the ball. The only exception to this is K may catch, touch, muff, or bat a scrimmage kick in flight beyond the neutral zone if no R player is in position to catch the ball. These provisions apply whether a fair catch signal is given or not given, but no longer apply after a free kick has been touched by R or a scrimmage kick touched by R clearly beyond the neutral zone or any kick has hit the ground. So KCI is for your free kicks is before the ball touches the ground. You cannot contact an R player, obstruct their path to the ball, touch the ball while it's still airborne. Scrimmage kick, you have a little more flexibility in touching the ball while it's still airborne, but you still can't contact the potential receiver unless he's initiating the block first or obstruct their path to the ball. There's no halo rule in high school. It's really just that vague obstructing their path to the ball. And then penalty is kick catching interference, which is just your pass interference signal, as we all know it. And it does have particular special enforcement, but it, for the most part, is a 15-yard penalty.
So now, Tom, with the free kick in flight, in or beyond the neutral zone, if we have kick catching interference, ball's kicked from the 40-yard line, only goes 5 yards in the air, and somebody from K touches the ball, we're going to have a 15-yard kick catching interference because it's in the neutral zone at that point. But we'll also have first touching at that point.
Yep. But you're 15 yards from the spot of the KCI, which is the same as the spot of first touching, is probably better than taking the ball at the spot of first touching.
Yep. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody out there.
Yep. It is first touching. So by fishing standards, beanbag down and then a flag down at the same time because it is
Yep.
KCI because it hasn't hit the ground yet.
So as you mentioned, KCI is typically going to be your 15-yard penalty, 15 yards from the previous spot, and a replay of down, or accept the results of the play. These are our special enforcements. It's rare that you're going to have them replay the down. If you get the kick catching interference, they're going to take the 15-yard penalty and want possession of the ball. So the awarded fair catch plus 15 yards. So Daniel, talking about weaponizing that kick, you get that 15 yards and now you get the awarded fair catch penalty. Now you can come out with your free kick formation for a field goal. So you're getting that bonus 15 yards on there, so you can add that one.
That's what I'm talking about.
Coach Chip?
I've actually seen that done, but I don't have anything. I got a question later, but not for this.
Okay. So fair catch versus not a fair catch. Fair catch is a valid fair catch signal and they catch the kick. So again, above the head, we try to tell them, give us really like 2 waves so that we really all know it. Plus they catch the ball. That would be what a fair catch is. An awarded fair catch is a provision of a penalty for kick catching and interference, which we just talked about. You get that awarded fair catch. Now you can go with your free kick for a field goal type of scenario. R has the option to take the next snap or free kick anywhere between the hash marks, which Daniel and I talked about last week. This is one of the times where you get to choose if you want the ball in the left hash, middle of the field, right hash, upright, whatever it may be. It is your option for R in that scenario on where you want the ball. And it is not a fair catch if an invalid signal signaled by a different player, signal and a muff, the ball is still dead, but there is no protection and you don't have the option to choose from where it is snapped from. So these are going to all be put into play. When we talk about between the hash marks, typically we're just going with where the ball is, unless the coach says, hey, I want the ball on the right hash. So coaches, just be mindful of that.
So, Mike, I've got to ask here. It says signal by a different player. So if my front line fair catches it, my receiver snags it, knows it's a fair catch, do I still get the option to free kick after fair catch? Or is that waived due to it not being a fair catch with the different person signaling it?
I'm interpreting that as it's being waived because it's got to be caught by you as the returner. Going back to the top bullet point where you give a fair catch is the valid fair catch signal and they catch the kick. Tommy?
Yeah, so
agree,
yeah,
disagree?
no, it's spot on. It's got to be the player who gives the signal, has to be the one to catch it to get your provisions to free kick or choose your lateral position to snap.
Good one to know.
That is a good one to know. Good question, Daniel.
All right, Coach Chip, I'm going to let you take the free kick after fair catch here because you've seen it. Tommy, have you seen it?
Only on Instagram. I found a couple high school the past few years.
Were any of them in Alabama
Daniel, how about you?
back in the 90s?
No. Fairly recently. One was a playoff game, and it won the game for him. It was
One I saw was a third round game. Yeah. But one of the
All right,
most
so Coach
unique,
Chip, you got this one.
one of the most unique situations in football, not many know of it. A free kick shall also put the ball in play. C, when a free kick is chosen following a fair catch, an awarded fair catch, or the replay of a down which follows a fair catch, or an awarded fair catch. You're going to explain that one to me in a minute. The captain may choose to free kick or snap anywhere between the hash marks. A field goal is scored as follows. A, the field goal attempt shall be a place kick or drop kick from scrimmage, or from a free kick following a fair catch or an awarded fair catch.
Now I'm going to let Tommy take your question, but Daniel, I'm going to ask you a question here on the second bullet point, Rule 654. Captain choose free kick or snap anywhere between the hash marks. We've talked about that. Who's making that choice?
Well, we all know it's the coach that's making the choice, and we kind of discussed that in a previous episode where a lot of times the rule book says it's the captain, but refs are not that hard up to screw a team out of a chance to win a game in an exciting way. So the coach is over there making that choice.
Yes, sir.
All right, Tom, what
Yeah.
does that mean? A free kick shall also be put into play when a free kick is chosen following a fair catch, an awarded fair catch, or the replay of a down which follows a fair catch or an awarded fair catch. What does all that mean?
Yeah, so it's kind of a half quote of the rule. So Rule 412 is the rule that tells you how we put the ball in play. So I think Rule 411 is we put the ball in play by a snap. Here's when. And Rule 412 is here's when we put the ball in play by a free kick. I think Part A is for a kickoff to start the game. Part B is for a kick after a safety. And then Part C, it says a free kick can put the ball in play when a free kick is chosen following a fair catch, etc.
You explained it better than the words did.
Yeah,
The
it's
one
a
time
half
I,
quote of the
the
rule
one
book.
time I,
That doesn't make much sense.
no, the one time I saw it happen, the receiving team or defensive team actually made it easier for the team that was doing the kick because they didn't know what the heck was going on. The referees created the 10-yard neutral zone. When the referee blew the whistle, the kids were standing there looking around, and as the kicker approached the ball, they just charged it and blocked it twice. So it was actually
10 yards out of that.
Well, they fair caught it like just on the good side of the 50. So by the time the kid kicked it, it was inside the 40. So he was getting, and he was a good kicker, and he kicked it, and it was the third round of the playoffs. That team went on and won the state championship. But we were all sitting there as coaches, and I was that nerd that always read the rule book, and I'm going, "Oh my God, I've never seen this before. Oh my God," I knew it could happen, but I'd never seen it happen, and that was, like I said, in the '90s.
I
But
knew you were a nerd like that, Coach Chip. Good stuff.
hey, you can call it a nerd, but I always kept a copy of the rule book in the coach's office bathroom. So
Absolutely.
That's as good a place as
It's
any.
not for it.
So we have our final slide of the night. So a free kick after a fair catch. By choosing a fair catch free kick, R can score a field goal via a free kick. And why would they? Well, Coach Chip, you mentioned it. It should be uncontested because there is still that 10 yards apart. So if you are able to block that free kick from 10 yards away, you've got some vertical leap there. I'll give you a lot of credit if you're able to do that, but basically you got to still give that 10 yards and it can't be broken basically until the ball is kicked. So if you're able to sprint forward at that millisecond that the ball is going to be in the air, good for you. And you're going to want this late. It typically happens late in the game or late in and a half when there's little time for any additional plays because, well, basically, if there's still time left and the ball does cross the goal line and doesn't score, it's going to be a turnover. It's going to be a touchback, and the other team's going to get possession at the 20-yard line. So you're going to see it when there's little to basically no time left. So late in the half for a game, presuming that 3 points could have affect the outcome of the game in the fourth quarter. You'll see this when K is punting from deep in their own territory, or when you have that KCI, which we just talked about, Daniel, for that fair catch, or the fair catch after a really short kick. But again, it's not only the signaling of the fair catch, but it's also the catching of the fair catch by the person who signals that fair catch. So if you know that the other team's got a really bad punter and they're punting from their end zone late in the second quarter, well, you may tell everybody, give a fair catch signal, but make sure you catch it, and then we can get a free kick. So again,
this team,
very,
that
very
team
rare.
that team I was talking about had 4 guys back deep. They had them pinned deep.
Yep.
They had a guy on each hash and a guy on each number. Fair catch.
And listen, catching a punt is that's a skill in its own right. I mean, just the nerve to be a punt returner of catching the ball when your eyes are looking up and straight up in the air for a ball that should hopefully be 30, 40 yards up in the air with people screaming down at you. That takes some nerve. I always remember Kenny Easley talking about it, old Seahawk safety back in the day. Dating myself here, but he was a nut job that would go back there because he didn't care. I don't think he ever fair caught a ball in his career, um, but he was a special individual.
He had a nickname though. He was one of the first big safeties. Remember that, Mike? One of the first big 200 and something pound safeties that was built like a linebacker. He'd have been
Yes,
perfect for the Tampa too, because he was huge.
Yes.
So I got one more question here, but I know we're getting ready to kind of close out. But this free kick that we're kicking would be the same as a punt, right? So I could also utilize this to get it out of my own, like my offense isn't doing anything. I just need to get this ball back down in their end or whatever. Can I kick it down there and have it downed at the 1 or kick it out of bounds way down? I don't know. I'm just asking ridiculous question here. Another way to utilize this though, because a kick is a kick is a kick, right?
Yeah, all the free kick rules apply. So when you kick it, they could recover and advance it.
But I can send guys down to cover it.
You recover it and down it, like you said, just like a punt, but it would be just like a regular free kick. So you can't advance it.
Does that make it an onside kick, Tom? If I boot it down there and just send people chasing after it and my field goal kicker can't make it, can we recover this
Yeah,
ball
same thing.
on 10 yards?
Not once it goes 10. I know that
Once
one.
it goes 10 and hits the ground, it's a free kick. You can recover it. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking. See, here we go. That's like the
No,
best
you can't
offensive
recover
play
it,
in
but
football.
You can recover it and regain possession, Tom.
Yeah, it's a normal free kick. So
Oh, I
just
love
imagine
that.
you're kicking off.
All right, I'm going back in. I'm back in. I put my whistle back on.
Weaponized it. Let's go. The longest onside kick in history.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, on my deathbed, if you ask me what is your only regret in coaching, is that I never got to do a free kick after a fair catch. And we practiced it because I practiced it. If I had a good kicker, every Thursday we practiced it. It never happened.
Yep, 100%. It's one of those nuanced rules that a lot of people don't know. So the fact that you actually practiced it, you are already ahead of the game in that scenario. And
Yeah.
so will Daniel now, because he was locked and loaded now.
Oh, that's awesome though, dude. Yeah.
I love to weaponize it, man. That's my favorite part of this.
Well, gentlemen, we have finally come to the end. And once again, I must thank you all three for having the patience of dealing with my interweb here, which I just want to throw out the window. Not that that would do anything because it's
Hey, Mike.
cellular.
Mike.
Yes, sir.
I got that question.
Yes, Chip.
It's not necessarily
boy.
a kicking question. Let's say it's 4th and long, and my quarterback is my punter. And instead of punting it, he throws it deep and high down the field. And their corners are mugging my gunners all the way down the field. Is that pass interference?
Are you throwing it to one of those gunners? Is it in the direction?
Dude, there's no such thing as an uncatchable pass in Federation rules.
You got me there.
And I've always thought that
Coach
was a
Chip?
flaw in the rule book. I've always thought that was a flaw in the rule
and
book.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've run that play before for that sole purpose.
We did too.
Nope.
Yep.
But
And
can you get them to actually throw the flag?
Well, you got to warn the referee
they
you're going to do
should.
it.
And that's one of those pregame conferences
That's-
that
Yep.
Absolutely something you should tell them and get their
Absolutely.
interpretation on it before you try to do it and get mad.
Exactly. Because some referees they'll say that they won't say it because it goes against the rule book. They won't say, Coach, they couldn't catch that ball. But you know that's why they didn't throw the flag.
Or could it be considered deception by the offense of trying to look like a punt, and now you get a penalty for deceiving the other team?
In that case, the wishbone, inside veer, and all triple option offenses should be banned.
Coach, you don't even have to take it that deep. What about counter? What
There
about
you
play
go.
action?
What about reverses? RPOs? That's what I told a referee one time. We did the hunker down on the punt, They said, Coach, you were attempting to deceive them. I said, hell, we attempted to deceive them on 9 out of 10 snaps.
Yeah, this is where the coach comes out of me, and I don't disagree with you, but Daniel is right. You might get a deception type penalty in that scenario. So definitely, if you're going to do something like that, discuss it with your officials before the game. Let them know, because here's the other thing that you have to remember: a lot of our keys as the officials on the field, only basically R is going to be looking at the punter. So to know if the ball was punted or thrown, it's basically going to be on the referee. And then the referee is going to focus on the safety of that punter slash quarterback. And they're not looking to see what the outcome is down the field. So the people that are possibly calling the interference that you're looking for, they think the ball's punted. So they're probably not going to drop a flag on that. Where the referee knows that the ball was thrown, but they're still looking at the quarterback for their protection. They don't know what's happening down the field. So you're going to have 5, 6 different officials on a different page, not realizing that, oh, it's an incomplete pass. Wait, what? They thought it was punted. So definitely talk it over with their officials before the game.
For sure.
If they don't call it, I'll use one of my favorite quotes from Marv Levy. You over-officious jerk. You know?
Yes, sir. NFL films right there.
Mike, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you having us on. It's,
Thanks, Mike. Good to meet you,
Of
Tom.
course, thanks, Mike.
Yep, Tom, was good to meet you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, once again, I appreciate you. Coach Chip, I'm going to steal one out of your playbook here. I may be breaking this one up into 2 episodes too, but for those that were staying with us live, do appreciate you all being out there. Gents, I appreciate you once again for sticking with me during my internet issues. Guys and gals, go check out those guys' websites. Check out what they got going on. Daniel Chamberlain, Coach Chambo, OK, and Coach Chip. Okay, check out their websites, their YouTube pages. They got fantastic stuff out there. And Guyan, once again, thank you all for everything you guys do. Keeping this game great. Appreciate you all.
No problem.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.